There is a moment every night that almost no one pays attention to. A quiet threshold, a narrow doorway between waking life and something far more mysterious. It happens just before sleep claims you. Your breathing slows, your body grows heavy, thoughts begin to blur and stretch, losing their sharp edges, and then you're gone. Most people believe this is where awareness simply shuts off, that sleep is a blackout, an absence, a blank stretch of time where nothing meaningful happens. But that belief may be one of the greatest misunderstandings of human existence, because the truth is this: the moment you fall asleep is not the moment consciousness disappears. It is the moment it changes location. What you call losing awareness is actually a transfer, a handoff, a shift from one mode of perception to another. Every night, without your permission or effort, something within you disengages from the physical world and begins operating under entirely different rules. And it has been happening your entire life. If you live 75 years, you will spend roughly 25 of them asleep, a third of your existence. Nature does not waste that much time. So the real question isn't why we sleep, it's what is really happening while we do. Think back to childhood. You may remember waking up with a strange emotional weight, as if you had lived through something enormous but couldn't quite recall it. Or dreams that felt more real than reality itself. Dreams that lingered in your body long after the images faded. Those weren't random hallucinations. They were fragments, distorted impressions of experiences that didn't originate in the physical world. The body sleeps, but the deeper layer of you does not. While your muscles go limp and your senses withdraw, another form of awareness becomes active, one that is not bound to sight, sound, or physical location. This is why sleep has always been linked to intuition. Have you ever gone to bed confused, only to wake up with clarity? A solution appears fully formed. A decision suddenly feels obvious. A quiet certainty replaces doubt. That knowledge didn't come from thinking harder. It arrived from somewhere else. During sleep, the filters of ordinary perception loosen. The constant noise of survival, identity, and social expectation fades, and in that silence, a deeper intelligence begins to operate. This is why ancient cultures treated sleep as sacred. It was never considered nothing. It was considered access to healing, access to guidance, access to information the waking mind is too rigid to receive. There is a precise instant where this transition begins. You've felt it before. That sensation of falling, or sinking, or briefly jerking awake just as you're drifting off. Science calls it a muscle reflex, but subjectively, it feels like something slipping. That sensation marks the first separation. At first, awareness pulls away from the senses. Sounds fade, the weight of the body disappears, time begins to stretch and warp. It's as if someone slowly turns down the volume on the physical world. But here's the paradox. As physical perception decreases, inner perception intensifies. This is why imagery becomes vivid, why emotions feel amplified, why symbolic experiences begin to replace logical thought. The second stage is subtler and far more important. This is when the part of you that normally feels locked in begins to loosen. Imagine wearing a rigid suit your entire life. Heavy, restrictive, necessary for survival, but exhausting. Sleep is the moment that suit comes off. The release is gradual. It can take minutes or longer, depending on your mental and emotional state. Some people are more sensitive to it. They report floating sensations, the feeling of hovering above the body, or the sense of returning from a vast distance when waking up. These are not fantasies, they are subjective markers of a real internal shift. But not all separations go equally deep. Sometimes awareness stays close, hovering near familiar imagery, recycling daily memories, weaving them into symbolic narratives. Other times, it travels far beyond the logic of the physical world. This is when dreams defy physics, when movement is effortless, when places shift instantly, when identity becomes fluid. In those states, thought no longer creates ideas, it creates environments. And here is where something profound happens. Freed from the constraints of the physical brain, consciousness regains abilities it normally suppresses. Pattern recognition becomes instantaneous. Emotional processing accelerates. Information is absorbed holistically rather than sequentially. This is why entire insights can arrive in a single moment. It is also why unresolved emotional states follow you into sleep. Anger, fear, anxiety. They don't disappear when your eyes close. They shape where awareness goes, and what it encounters. Your inner state becomes a compass. This is why sleep is not neutral, it is responsive. What you carry into it determines the quality of the experience. And yet, despite how intimate this process is, almost no one is taught how to engage with it consciously. We are trained to value the waking mind, productivity, logic, control. But the deeper intelligence doesn't operate under those rules. It speaks in impressions, symbols, sudden knowing, and every night you step into its domain. Untrained, unaware, but not unprotected, there is something that ensures you always return. A tether between physical identity and deeper awareness. An invisible connection that maintains coherence even as perception shifts. Understanding this connection and what happens when it is strained changes how you understand sleep, consciousness, and even death itself. And that is where the journey truly begins. In the next session, we'll explore where awareness actually goes once it moves beyond the surface layers of dreaming, and why not all inner worlds are the same. Once awareness loosens from the surface of waking life, it does not drift aimlessly, it moves with direction, even if you don't remember choosing it. What most people call dreams are not random stories generated by the brain. They are translations, simplified impressions of experiences that occur in layers far deeper than language. To understand what really happens during sleep, you must let go of the idea that reality is singular. There is not one world you move through at night. There are levels. And every night, your consciousness passes through them. The first level is the closest to physical life. It feels familiar, recognizable, almost ordinary. You may find yourself in places you know, your home, your school, your childhood street, but something is always slightly off. Rooms appear where none existed, distances stretch or collapse. People act like different versions of themselves. This layer exists just beyond the physical world, like a shadow version of it. It is here that most everyday dreams occur. Awareness is still anchored close to physical memory, still influenced by recent events, conversations, and emotional residues from the day. But here's what few people realize. You're not alone in this layer. When two people dream of each other on the same night, it is not coincidence. When conversations seem to continue across sleep, it is not imagination. Consciousness can meet consciousness. This is why some dreams feel shared, even when neither person remembers all the details. As awareness moves deeper, familiarity dissolves. The second layer is not governed by physical structure, but by emotion and intention. Here, thought no longer describes reality. It creates it. Movement becomes effortless. Time loses sequence. Space responds instantly. If you desire a place, you are already there. If you fear something, it manifests. This is the realm where dreams become epic, terrifying, ecstatic, or overwhelming. It is where nightmares are born not as punishments, but as confrontations. This layer reveals what the waking mind hides: unprocessed fear, suppressed anger, unacknowledged desire, everything amplified. But this realm is not empty, it is inhabited. Some presences are echoes, residual consciousness that no longer anchors to a physical body. Others are intelligences shaped by emotion itself. Not all are hostile, but not all are benevolent. This is why some dreams leave you drained, shaken, or emotionally exhausted. Energy is exchanged here. What you feel is not symbolic. It is real within that layer. This is also why emotional discipline matters. What you carry during the day determines what has access to you at night. Fear acts like a signal flare. So does despair. So does unresolved grief. But so does calm. So does gratitude. So does clarity. Consciousness moves toward resonance. And then, on some nights, it moves beyond emotion altogether, into a third layer few people recognize consciously. Here, there are no stories, no characters, no imagery in the way dreams usually appear. There is only knowing. This is where insight arrives fully formed. Artists wake with melodies already complete. Scientists wake with solutions that bypass years of calculation. Decisions crystallize without reasoning. This layer does not communicate through images. It communicates through direct understanding. You don't remember what happened there, you remember what changed. A sense of peace, a certainty, a shift in direction. This is why some awakenings feel sacred even when nothing dramatic occurred. Consciousness does not stay in one layer all night. It moves, guided by need. If healing is required, awareness lingers in emotional layers. If clarity is required, it ascends. If memory must be integrated, it returns closer to the physical. But through all this movement, one thing remains constant. There is a connection, an unbroken line of coherence that ensures awareness always returns to the body. You never truly leave yourself behind. This connection is not metaphorical. It is the reason sleep paralysis feels so disturbing. Why near-death experiences feel tethered. Why waking sometimes feels like being pulled back suddenly. The connection tightens and loosens, but it does not vanish. Unless something interferes, trauma can strain it, shock can distort it, chronic emotional stress can weaken its clarity. When this connection becomes unstable, dreams intensify. Reality feels thin. Awakening feels delayed. Some people describe feeling not fully back, for minutes or even hours. This is not imagination, it is reintegration lag. The deeper awareness traveled, the longer it takes to re-anchor. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Not everything encountered during sleep is there to help you. Some forms of consciousness do not create, they consume. They feed on emotional output, particularly fear, anger, and despair. This is why recurring nightmares feel parasitic, why they repeat without resolution, why they leave emotional residue long after waking. The more unconscious you are of your inner state, the more vulnerable you become. But awareness changes the equation. Once you understand that sleep is not passive, you stop entering it defenseless. Preparation matters. Your emotional state before sleep is not trivial, it is a gateway condition. Gratitude raises clarity. Calm stabilizes movement. Intention directs experience. Even simple mental framing alters the trajectory of awareness. This is why ritual exists in every ancient culture, not superstition, orientation. Sleep was treated as a journey, because it is one. And like any journey, it can be chaotic or deliberate, which brings us to a crucial turning point. There exists a state where consciousness does not lose itself at all, where awareness remains present as it crosses thresholds, where the dream does not carry you, you carry yourself. This is not fantasy. It is a skill, and mastering it changes everything you think you know about the mind. In the final session, we will explore what happens when awareness stays awake while the body sleeps, and why that power must be approached with care. There is a moment, rare, quiet, and deeply unsettling, when the body sleeps, but awareness does not follow. Most people never experience it consciously, and yet it is one of the most powerful states a human mind can enter. In this state, there is no blackout, no forgetting, no loss of self, only stillness and presence. You realize you're dreaming, not because the dream looks strange, but because you're aware of being aware. This is the threshold where the passive observer becomes the conscious participant. And the moment this happens, everything changes. You no longer move through experiences. Experiences move around you. This is not imagination taking control. It is awareness reclaiming authority. In this state, fear loses its automatic grip. Emotion no longer drags consciousness blindly. Thought becomes deliberate rather than reactive. But here is what most people misunderstand. This state is not about control. It is about clarity. You are not bending reality to your will. You are finally seeing how flexible reality already is. In this condition, movement is instantaneous, not because you decide to move, but because intention and location are no longer separate. Identity becomes fluid. You may feel yourself without a body, or with a body that shifts shape, or as a point of awareness without form at all. And instead of panic, there is often calm, a strange, ancient calm, as if the mind recognizes this state not as something new, but as something remembered. Many people wake themselves up the moment they enter this state. The clarity is overwhelming, the intensity too sharp. Awareness snaps back into the body like an elastic band. But those who remain, who resist the urge to react, discover something profound. This state is not random, it is trainable. Awareness learns patterns. The more often you notice the transition, the more familiar it becomes. The more familiar it becomes, the less shocking it feels. And the less shocking it feels, the longer it lasts. But with this ability comes a responsibility few talk about. When awareness remains active during sleep, it is no longer being carried by unconscious processes designed for healing and integration. You are now intervening, and intervention has consequences. Sometimes the mind enters this state during a night meant for emotional repair. If awareness disrupts that process, exhaustion can follow. Other times, clarity reveals inner material the waking mind is not prepared to face. This is why balance matters. This state is not meant to replace waking life. It is meant to inform it. Those who chase it obsessively often become disconnected. They sleep more, live less, and mistake escape for enlightenment. But those who approach it with humility discover something far more valuable. They learn how awareness behaves when stripped of identity, history, and fear. They learn that thought is not who they are. Emotion is not who they are. Even memory is not who they are. They are the space in which these things appear. This realization does not happen as an idea. It happens as an experience. And once it happens, it does not fully leave. You return to waking life subtly altered. Reactivity softens. Fear loses its urgency. Decisions feel quieter but clearer, because you've seen what remains when everything familiar falls away. You've seen the mind without noise. This is why many who touch this state report a strange sadness upon waking. Not despair, but longing. A sense that waking life is heavier, slower, more rigid, but that sadness is not loss. It is contrast, and contrast teaches. The purpose of this awareness is not to stay there. It is to bring something back. Clarity, perspective, stillness, to live more deliberately, to react less automatically, to notice when emotion hijacks awareness instead of guiding it. Sleep, then, is no longer escape. It becomes rehearsal. Every night the mind loosens its grip on structure. Every morning it returns carrying echoes of something deeper. And whether you remember or not, something within you has already changed. The real question is not whether these states exist. It is whether you are willing to notice what they reveal about you. Because once you understand that consciousness does not disappear in sleep, that awareness does not end when the body rests, you can no longer see yourself as merely a waking mind. You begin to sense that identity is layered, that perception is conditional, and that who you think you are is only one version of you. The loudest one. The others speak only in silence, and they speak every night. If this perspective shifted how you see sleep, consciousness, or yourself, share your thoughts in the comments. Your insight might be exactly what someone else needs to hear.